Welcome to the Afternoon Tea Podcast.
We're your hosts / baristas,
Krish.
Lisa and Bella.
In the cafe, we'll be discussing about mental health and well-being.
On our menus, there is no sugarcoating, no filters, no scripts, just raw and honest conversations.
We will be discussing some sensitive topics, so if you feel like anything affects you or you want help, please go to youtv.co.uk/support. Let's spill the tea.
Cheers. Hello and welcome to Afternoon Tea. Once more, I am Krish, your host, and I am drinking a normal tea with milk, no sugar. And my lovely host, Lisa.
So I decided to not go basic. I have a vanilla latte over here. And our lovely guest, Hayley. Hayley, how you feeling?
I'm good. I have a tea that's been made by Krish with milk and one sugar. And actually, it's not that bad.
You've heard it here, folks. There you go.
Get Krish to make your tea.
No, believe it. No, but I'll believe it when I see it, okay? So, okay, Hayley, you are the CEO of Link to Change.
I am, that's correct. Do you want to know what Link to Change is?
Oh, you know what? Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Right. And not that I've done this 1,000 times. So we are a small charity that works in Bedfordshire. We work with children and young people that have sadly fallen victim to child exploitation.
Right. Go on.
Nothing too lighthearted.
No, of course.
Take it with a, what's a spoonful of sugar? Medicine good? Yeah, let's bring Mary Poppins in. Okay, so did you have a question?
Well, let's see. So, I mean, that's something quite hard hitting and something, not too really
Easy to go down?
Yeah, quite. So how did you get into that?
Okay, so I've kind of worked with child exploitation now, more child sexual exploitation for 15, 20 years. Probably back in the day when it wasn't even really called child sexual exploitation. People didn't really know what it was. I started off as a youth worker, worked my way up, have been a trained counsellor as well, and somehow managed to work my way up and around through a management system and to become the chief executive of the charity. But for me, working with child sexual exploitation and sexual abuse and trauma is something that I really care about and I'm really passionate about as well.
Does it affect your daily life, having to consume like children's experiences? And I imagine they come to you naturally.
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard work, and it's something that you have to learn as an individual in the field. So I guess the best example is when I first started out and I was doing counselling training, they told me I was too young to do counselling training. And I was like, why? And they said, because you haven't got enough life experiences. And at that point, I reeled off like about an hour's worth of life experiences to them. And they were like, okay, yeah, we'll let you on the course. So they say that there's something about those life experiences that enable you to be able to hold and deal and maintain being able to work with other people within those situations, but also in being able to look after and protect yourself as well. I've always really struggled with my own mental health, and that's not something I shy away from. But it's something that you learn with time when you're working in that field. But it is hard. It's really hard. I hear some horrific stories, and even now I may be chief executive, but I still know what's happening with our young people. I still know what's happening on the ground. I still work with, I still meet some of our young people, and the journeys and the experiences that they have had to go through can be really hard and really horrific to hear.
You mentioned how you've dealt with this like yourself personally. Do you mind telling us about your upbringing?
So I grew up in a very deprived town, industrial town. There was lots of issues around crime, lots of poverty, lots of homelessness, lots of drugs. And it was a really difficult environment to grow up in. And I saw so many of my friends, and probably to this day still see so many people I know that I went to school with or have been friends with, that really struggle with mental health, that really struggle with substance abuse, that have been in and out the criminal justice system, just from living in that town and the environment and the impact of those that have been around them. It's almost like it's a generational thing sometimes with some of them.
So, you sort of mentioned, obviously, 15 to 20 years is quite a while trying to, campaign for something like this. And, and obviously you've experienced the whole breadth and depth of a lot of these things. What else have you sort of a part of to really combat all of these issues, essentially?
I don't know where to start with that. It's a combination of so many different things that attribute to what happens, what goes on, where things are, how the systems are, what structures are in place to be able to support people, what structures are in place to support myself, because I have had to learn to also look after myself within that. So it's a really difficult question to answer. It's really difficult because there's so many different aspects to that. I mean, if you want to look at systems that are in place, I don't think that we've got it right. I don't think we have got systems that are in place to be able to support people effectively with it. We are just all trying to do what we can. But there's so much misunderstanding of mental health. There's so much misunderstanding of sexual abuse, of trauma, of exploitation, of special education needs, of poverty, of substance misuse, that it's really hard to kind of look at it, if that makes sense.
And, you sort of mentioned this system that's not quite right yet. Is that, I can imagine there's quite a few number of factors, promoting that fact, but is it the confidence from the young people? Is it the how, guided and informed these, people are within the system? What do you think is making the system not quite right and not just there yet?
Okay.
You're welcome.
So I think there are a lot of factors, like I say. A couple of key things. I think there's still a huge misinterpretation of young people. So let's use exploitation as an example.
Sure.
So many people talk about young people putting themselves at risk. They're engaging in risky behavior. They are taking part in an unhealthy relationship. They don't have understanding. Actually, why are we not flipping it on the head and thinking, actually, that's a young person, and effectively you are still a child. And so let's think about it as that is a child. This is someone that is coercing, taking advantage of another child for their own purpose, for their own means. Why are we saying that young person is engaging in risky behaviours? Because actually that child is the person that's being groomed, that's being exploited, that's being abused. And therefore, how are they engaging in risky behaviours through their own decision making when someone has coerced them to do it? There's a huge misunderstanding around that. And so I think we've come really far in talking about what language we use. We don't use victim blaming language, but actually all of those things still exist. And if you think about even in the press at the moment, there's a lot around child sexual exploitation. There's a lot around trafficking. So many of the words and so much of that language is used is still placing blame on the victims.
Sure.
And I don't even like using the word victims. I like to use the word survivors.
Yeah.
At no point is a child or a vulnerable person ever to blame for anything that's happened. So that's one of the things that I would say definitely around the system. I also think there's a definite piece around the education of those. So even professionals that are in the field, what is their education? What is their knowledge around the subject matter? Do they really get it? And then even if we're talking about the police, when police are doing basic training, they are getting maybe an hour or half a day's training on mental health, an hour, half an hour, and a half day's training on exploitation, on how to work with someone with autism. And then we're sending them out to work in the field and in the streets. And actually, that's not that police officer's fault if they don't feel comfortable and they don't have an understanding and they don't know how to deal with someone properly. And all of those things combined, it can show faults in the system as to why the systems aren't working for them.
And surely that breaks that, that trust in policing, because they obviously think, well, if they're not going to help me, who can? And obviously, it's like you've sort of said, it's not their fault. They've just not been informed correctly or as in depth. Is that where someone like you come in, or like a VEP, for example? How can these police officers and anyone, frankly, get more informed and actually be useful to anyone struggling with mental health and exploitation and all?
Yeah, so I think, yes, that's where we try to come in. That's where we advocate. And part of the work that we do is if we've got a young person that maybe is within the criminal justice system or is going through a police case or under investigation at the moment, we will work really hard with the police to advocate for that young person, to share their voice, to share their experiences where they maybe feel that they can't. And I know some amazing police officers. I know some amazing social workers. The systems that are in place to support them aren't always necessarily the best systems. So we try to work with them. We try to advocate for them. But also, there's things. So I sit on some of the scrutiny panels for the Police Crime Commissioner, and actually part of those scrutiny panels are to look at, are the police responding in the way that they should be responding in terms of stop and search, in terms of use of force, in terms of when people are going into custody. And those panels are there to really give the opinions of the communities that they serve, but also is made up of people from all walks of life. So, there's myself and there's someone that maybe just lives within the community. And these are all the things that help with those systems, that help shape those systems. But we still haven't got it right. And I can sit here and wholeheartedly say we still don't have it right. There's so much that still needs to be done. And I don't think the media helps. I really don't think the media helps.
With the media, a lot of stuff is generalized and a lot of people voice their opinion, and a lot of the time they can be cancelled, they can face a lot of backlash, even if like a lot of people share their opinion, and so other people kind of feel scared to talk about it. But one opinion that I wanted to ask you about is how, more so to do with females, how females, if they dress a certain way, they are asking for it. That's a very common term in the media used when a female faces some sort of sexual harassment or anything like that, and people blame it on the survivor, as you like to call it. And I love how they use survivor, not such a word to use.
Absolutely.
It is. And so what are your thoughts on how to do with like women's sexual harassment, female sexual harassment? They're very fixated on their clothes and what they wear and how they express themselves. And not even just with females, so many people.
Well, yeah, again, if you think about it, the root of why someone, well, maybe not the root, but we all like to feel good within ourselves. We all need to have good self-esteem. If someone gets self-esteem from dressing in a particular way, who is to say that that person shouldn't dress that way?
Right.
Someone should not be judged because of how they look, what they're wearing, and it's such a common thing. I've been I've been a female. I've been a young female out on a Saturday night many, many moons ago, before I had children and decided to not have a social life. But I've been out on a Saturday night where I've gone to the toilet, and as I am walking back up the stairs, someone's put their hand up my skirt, and I've gone, well, what are you doing? I didn't quite say it in those words, but what are you doing? Well, you shouldn't be wearing such a short skirt. Right. Well, no, that's not an invitation for you to kind of do whatever it was that you were intending to do. Luckily, I'm feisty. But, I think it's awful. No one should be judged by how they look, what they wear, how they appear, what they say, what they do. And it's really horrible. And as a mom as well, for me to say, oh, do you know what? I don't know if you should be wearing that because people are going to get an assumption of you, which I've had to do as a mum. But that's horrible for me to have to then say that, because I shouldn't have to think about my child going out wearing a certain outfit because I'm worried what other people are going to assume that person is like. And you would think that by now we would be in a place in a society where people wouldn't judge you for what you are. But the press are awful for it. The media is awful for it. Social media is awful for it. And but we're still having the same conversations that happened to me 20 odd years ago. But the same thing is still happening now. You're still being judged. And at what point is anyone ever asking for it? That's the words that frustrate me, that really frustrate me. That person, well, they shouldn't have been wearing that because they were asking for it. Like that's just not on. That's not acceptable.
What do you think the justice system, school systems, just the public in general, and the press, as you mentioned, do to sort of discontinue that sort of phrasing?
I don't think they do anything. I don't think they do anything. I think as well, if you think about schools, you know, in some schools, girls are not allowed to wear a certain length trousers because they might expose their ankles, and boys might find their ankles attractive. And this genuinely is in schools that I have worked in. I have gone in schools and I've worked with young people, and they've said, oh, I got told off today because I had, pencil trousers on that came to just above the ankle, but I got told off. Why did you get told off? Because girls aren't allowed to expose their ankles because then the boys will see their ankles. Where girls are, again, not allowed to wear shorts for school, for PE, where if you're a girl, you have to wear a skirt. You can't wear trousers. And vice versa. I once worked with a young lad that went into school and wore his girlfriend's skirt just to try and make a point of saying, like, actually, do you know what? It doesn't matter what we're wearing.
Not.
So I don't think any of the systems that are in place help discourage any of that language, because sadly, I've also worked with a lot of professionals in my time. I've worked with a lot of police, everyone across the board, and they still talk like that. They still use those language. We can get a referral through for a young person and say, well, actually, they've changed the way that they're dressing. They start dressing provocatively, right?
Oh, that word.
Yeah. What, this is a 15-year-old. What about a 15-year-old and how they're dressing is provocative?
No, quite. And I love when you said about the boyfriend wearing the girlfriend's dress. It reminds me of the Roald Dahl book, Boy in the Dress. Exactly. Going to football, wearing a dress, and just sort of doing just that. Which I love that book for that very reason. But yeah, you sort of mentioned because of people and professionals are still speaking in that language and still saying these terms. I can imagine young people and just people in general are losing confidence in their peers and their higher ups, because why would they want to go up to someone they might find trust and then hearing that language from them? Surely that means, for example, they said, going out on a Saturday night, if they feel the police force are using that language, why would they want to go to them? They've lost that confidence and trust in them. Likewise with a student who's 15, who would love to tell the headmaster or someone higher up, SLT, and sort of say, well, that's not the case. I'm just feeling like I can wear this because it's making me feel more confident, blah, 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 and just really feeling great. For them just to break them down and go, actually, you're asking for it, quotation marks, What do you think of that?
I think that, that's one of the key things, is that no one is ever going to come to you and talk to you about anything if they don't feel that they can trust you. So there's so much around young people do not trust the police. And end of. Young people do not trust social workers because there's this sudden assumption that if you've got a social worker involved, then you're suddenly going to be ripped away from your family. It's actually a really hard, long process for that to happen. And so there's all these automatic assumptions of what the police represent, what social care represent, what teachers represent already. Now, let's throw into that you're not going to trust them. And, no one is ever going to... if you're standing up, say I've gone and delivered a workshop. It's been many moons since I've done that, but I'm standing up in a school. I'm delivering a workshop on exploitation. I'm saying at the end of it, look, I'm going to be here. Drop in if you feel like you want to come. If anything I've raised today, please come and talk to me. And then the teacher follows that up with, right, now you've all got to get back to your lessons, but also remember that sharing nudes is against the law. Yes, I am very much aware that that is against the law, right? But what all you've done is stop that young person coming forward, because they are absolutely terrified now that the police are going to turn up and they are going to arrest them.
Right.
You know, so you're highlighting one thing. Yes, it is against the law. I'm not standing there saying that this is against the law, but how is someone ever going to come forward and talk to you and trust you if you have terrified them? And that has happened. I have been in schools where, you know, teachers have gone la 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 la, you know, really shouting after I've tried to deliver this nice message about, you know, stay safe, come and talk to trusted adults if you feel uncomfortable. You know, many of the young people that I've worked with let's use sending nudes, for example.
Sure,
You know, have sent nudes back and forth. They've then been arrested by the police, and then, you know, parents have found out all of those different things. By that time, that young person's then come to me, they're sitting there saying, well, it's all my fault because I sent the nude in the first place. Actually, when you dig deeper, you find out that that young person was being groomed, was being coerced online to be able to send those to send those nudes.
Yeah.
Now, that young person has heard 3 or 4 times it's your fault, you shouldn't have sent it. But no one's ever bothered to listen to the reasons as to why they're sending it.
Right.
So if you can't trust that adult, you're never going to get to that reason, which means that you're never going to get to whatever it is going on in that young person's life to try and help them and resolve them. All you're going to do is make that situation worse.
There's this common understanding. It shouldn't be an understanding. It should really be. This is such an annoying topic, but like it's so common for like young adults and males and stuff like that, and boys and teenagers to feel like they can't be emotional. There's this idea that boys can't be emotional, and I think that's so much. That's so. Am I lost for words? It's so like further from the truth. Like being emotional it's something so releasing. It's how you express yourself, and I really don't like how boys they're just told you can't be emotional. You can be a man is how they call it.
But then what happens is you then end up, you know, I clearly remember I was delivering a 6-week anger management course with a group of boys, right? Well, what's going to happen when you put a group of 6 boys that are like kicking off in school all the time, right? And you put them all together in an anger management workshop, group work, 6-week program. Well, clearly I've got loads of egos in there, but what I'm trying to do is trying to work out what's going on for each of those individual boys, because that's what happened. They're not allowed to be emotional. So what's the response that they're then assumed to be? Well, then that goes to anger. And why is that boy not allowed to be emotional? If you've got a young man in school and he's kicking off and he's throwing chairs and he's doing this and then he's getting excluded here and he's getting excluded there, like, what is the reason behind that? Is it because he's got emotions that he can't show because it's not appropriate for boys to cry? So they're channeling all that emotion into something else, which then turns into anger, which then turns into disruptive behavior. At no point, it does happen, but at no point is anyone saying to that boy, is everything all right? Is there anything you need to talk about? Because he's expressed himself in an angry way, he's automatically got the teacher, the principal, whoever it is, wagging the finger and shouting at them and telling them off, because boys, have to be that person. They can't show that emotion, it's classed as weak. And I don't think it's weak. I think it shows a really strong character to be able to be honest and display your emotions and say what you're feeling.
So am I right to assume then, from that point and the previous point then together, that these higher ups are essentially, waggling their fingers and sort of going, this, that, and the other, and using this, let's say the police as this power, as this really evil thing of, if you do this now, just you wait for them and they're going to really, that's
Oh, yes. Yeah. I hear that all the time. Oh, the police, they've said the police, they've said the police.
Yeah.
The police are so overwhelmed. And they have so much on their plate. I know I've got a lot of police officers within my family, and you say to them, how's things, what's going on, and they're just like, just so much, just so busy, so much.
Because it's quite unfair for them, because they're getting this image of they're these really bad people or something, this and the other, and they've been used as this, like I said, this really bad power that if you mess with like something like this, it's instead of being it's all right, don't worry, you can do X, Y, and Z, just you wait for them and they're going to do something terrible, you're going to go to jail, blah, blah, blah. And it's unfair for them when they're trying to help the community and actually try and find better routes than just, there you go, you're in jail.
Yeah. It comes off as like a threat.
It's entirely a threat, yeah.
It is, and that, there's also the other side to it where I think that the community doesn't have a lot of trust in the police. So it's not just young people, it's the community as a whole, because they see the crime, they see the drugs, they see the knife crime, they see, they don't see the exploitation. That's part of the issue, that we could shout about it from the rooftops and people still say, well, it doesn't happen in our town, it's not going on here. But people in the community see this and they go, oh, well, the police aren't doing anything about it. The police are so overwhelmed. And that's why I can sit here and say, the system isn't working. We know the system isn't working. I can pick here and say, but it's because of this. However, if we flip it on its head, the police are so overwhelmed and so overworked, they possibly cannot tackle everything. They can't do everything. They can't tackle everything. They have to choose where the priorities are and what they need to do. There's not enough in the system. So it's almost like it's a flip card. It's both ways. People don't have trust in them. They're not really helping the situation. They're not helping young people because they're not trying to build trust in them. Young people don't see the police in a positive light because they only see all the negative, all the bad things.
Absolutely.
But then the police are struggling because they are overwhelmed with their workloads.
So then, sort of like a concluding question, essentially, what do you think we can do as a society or as the system to change something like this? Because, we've seen that people say, well, we want more police, out and about and actually seeing their presence will maybe help. A lot of people said then they feel even more scared because they're now seeing these high-vis policemen everywhere and just sort of thinking, oh my God, there's something that's going on around this area. I need to. So what can we do as a society or system to change either that mindset or change something to get everything working in a flow state, essentially?
Well, that is a huge question. That's like almost saying, Hayley, how do you solve world peace? Right.
Sure.
I think that there is a huge education piece that needs to be done. How that's done, I don't know, but I'd love to tackle it because I would love to tackle all of it. Education is key. People's understanding of the police, their demands, the perception, but also going back to the language, going back to training of police being able to understand mental health fully, to understand a person. Each person is an individual. And it's really hard to put a blanket approach because each person is individual. But all it takes is to have a conversation and listen to a person. And if someone feels that there's been a conversation, they feel that they've been listened to, then that goes a long way. So it's almost like we need to be able to understand what they're saying, what's going on, but actually the community as a whole needs to have a better understanding in how it looks at, how it approaches, how they talk to people, especially how they talk to young people, how they view young people. A young person walking down the street is not a threat to them. It's all about the circumstances, and I nearly spilled my tea. Just the comedy moment. I'm going to whack it.
So before we wrap up, do you have any wise words for our audiences?
Crikey. Listen, I think the most important thing that we need to do is think about listening to each individual and think about their experiences, because if we don't listen, then we can never have an understanding of what is actually going on.
I love that. That's
Beautiful words.
well. Thank you so much.
We need a good cheers.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
And I didn't spill it all.
Come on.
Yeah.
Let's go.
There we go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hope you enjoyed your tears on your teeth.
Yeah. Well,
And I hope you enjoyed today's episode
absolutely.
of Afternoon Tea Podcast. We'll see you next time on the next episode.
Catch you in a bit. Cheers. Bye.
Gosh, we've spilled the tea, haven't we? I need to go refill my cup.
Before you go, if you like what we're doing and you want to support us, please have a chat with us at
Afternoon tea at YouthTV.co.uk.
Stick the Kettle On, and we'll catch you in a bit.
See ya.